Hey, welcome back to this episode of Think Business Live. Looking forward to having one of my favorite guests on the show, my brother, Jeff Dwoskin. Jeff, how are you?
For those of you out there who've been tracking the Dwoskin brothers over the years, you're probably thinking, you guys have a lot more forehead these days. It's true.
God,
it's true.
Seriously. Oh, my God. I do get tired of looking at myself on Zoom and StreamYard all day with that shiny forehead. Anyway, enough about that. All right. So Think Community, we're going to talk today about customer engagement. My brother is a guru when it comes to customer engagement, when it comes to Twitter and Instagram. And I think a lot of times people don't know how to use them effectively. I think even Twitter, I think sometimes people get really confused on how to engage using Twitter. So what are, as we sit here live on, I don't even know what day it is. What is it? July 15th, 2021. As we sit here today, how do you get, customer engagement today on Twitter? There's just so much traffic. I mean, I just learned about a new app yesterday that I started using with Joanna and the kids, Marco Polo. Have you used it?
No.
Oh, so it's ridiculous. It's like you talk and then they hear you while you talk live, but they can't respond live. They can only just respond, but you can hear while people talk. But it's just there's so many new things coming out every moment. How do you use Twitter today effectively?
Well, I think for a brand or a company, the best way to use Twitter is twofold. One is to get your message out, but also customer service. Twitter happens to be one of the primary platforms where if someone's going to complain or talk about you, they're going to do it on Twitter because they feel it has the widest audience. Mm-hmm. Facebook is much more closed off. You're kind of in your own little community there. The trick on Twitter is to kind of be relevant. And with brands, a lot of times their organic posts are very salesy. And so they're not really taking advantage of what Twitter has best to offer, which is the ability to define your voice as a brand and engage with and be part of the Twitter community. So it's not just about shoving whatever your new product is and trying to get them to buy it. It's about having conversations, talking to them, responding to them, positive or negative comments that come in, and really kind of working it.
But how do you, so just kind of define, go a little bit deeper, like how do you be relevant, position your product, your service, et cetera, but not be too salesy? Like what's the fine line of sales versus educating when it comes to Twitter today?
Sure. Well, one is you can always be engaging in conversations and the trends that are happening if relevant. You got to kind of be careful when you're a brand, what you're going to talk about or not talk about.
Right.
What we do at #Stampede and where our product #Roundup has always been successful over the years is, there's the concept of Motivational Monday and, whatever, Talking Tuesday, Throwback Thursday. There's certain things that kind of set in. And people wait. It's National Sock Day. You know what I mean? So they'll tweet about socks, stuff like that. Well, we kind of early on thought, well, there's no reason you have to wait for that type of event that whoever in the universe decided that was going to be only on June 15th every year, that kind of thing. So conceptually, we work with and create those opportunities every day with fun hashtags. And then we work with brands to create those moments. So if you're working with, Geico, like we did something recently with Geico where they had a tie-in with the gecko in the Black Widow movie. He was in the back seat. So we did Adventures of a Backseat Driver. So it's a conversation relevant to something that they're doing, but they're not talking about insurance, but they're creating that affinity and the conversation around something that's important to them and engaging with fans and potential future customers through liking, quote tweeting, engaging, following, et cetera, et cetera.
So really, community building at its, at its core, building community around, whatever, whether it's the movie, the product, the service. So as you're building that community, and as a company like yours, hashtag Stampede, kind of comes in and creates and facilitates and helps companies and brands actually do this on Twitter, how do you then retain the people that you're actually talking to? So I would imagine you can't just do one campaign. You really gotta keep the community, and you gotta keep the conversations evolving.
Exactly. So we developed a technology that allows you to create a specific trigger on Twitter, and it doesn't have to it doesn't have to originate on Twitter. Meaning, you could be on this show right now and say, "Hey, go tweet hashtag Think Big at John Dwoskin," and I'll send you a tweet with a link to my book or something like that, right?
Yeah.
So the idea is, let's take a sweepstakes because that's a common use case. If they're doing a sweepstakes, we do these with Purple frequently, where they'll do a sweepstakes, and when they at Purple, they'll automatically, when they enter via Twitter, they'll automatically get a tweet, which sends them to a microsite where they can collect what's important, becoming much more important, which is the first party data, the opt-ins, the names, the emails, and the opt-ins. While Google has pushed out a year, they're shutting down of all the cookies and stuff like that. They collecting first party data and not relying on social media platforms to be able to communicate directly to your customers is becoming more and more important, and it's something you have to work on every day. So the idea of being able to engage and then send them to a microsite, give them, it doesn't have to be a sweepstakes. It could be, hey, you want to see our commercial early? Hey, you want a coupon? Hey, you want anything? And fill out this form, and then you'll get a percentage of those people that opt in. And now they're in your database. But Jeff, Twitter is not going away. Yes, and we probably said the same thing about MySpace, right? The other people that had millions of followers, et cetera, on MySpace disappears overnight, right? Yeah. So any one of these platforms can, in theory, disappear overnight. TikTok almost disappeared. Vine went away. So there is even more recent examples where, you can't rely just on the following you have on one single platform to be there in 5 years.
Yeah. You gotta control your community. And I agree. I love what you're saying. You can't rely on just those people, whether it's Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, et cetera, getting them to your opt-in, whether it's, on those social platforms or a website is key. So now let me ask you this. So I want to talk about consistency, because that to me seems to be the obstacle for companies. I would think that if a company's beginning this process, it's not like, hey, we're going to hire you for a month and do it. This is something where you have to kind of have a 1, 2, or 3 year strategy, because, statistically, somebody has to see things up to almost 50 times before they even start paying attention, before, 17 to 20 times before they even begin to engage. And so what is a company, how does a company walk into something like this? How long does the strategy need to be?
The strategy should be ongoing, right? Most companies focus on their new products, every quarter we release one product. So we'll do something, in August to tie in with X, and then they don't do anything again for 3 months. Well, the landscape and the opportunity is always there. So to only do it when you are at the height of rolling out one thing,
right,
is very, to me, short-sighted, in the sense that you should be creating opportunities all the time, so that when you do have that big announcement, you've kind of built it up for the last 3 months, at least. You've built up the community. And when you release it, there's that much more to build on and to blow up that messaging organically.
Yeah. You gotta build people into your community. And I think it's great. All right, let's talk about Instagram for a minute. Instagram, what are the effective ways that you see it of how people need to be using Instagram?
Instagram is Well, in general, in terms of how people should use it, they should have a regular cadence. It's not like Twitter, where Twitter you could tweet 5 times a day and you wouldn't really probably annoy anyone. Instagram's more of a 2-3 times a week type thing. But Instagram's also a great place for engagement and sweepstakes and getting people to spread the word and share the word through hashtags. Hashtags are great on Instagram as well. They don't work differently, but they're seen differently and leveraged differently, I think, on Instagram than they are on Facebook or on Twitter. On Instagram, you can use like 10, hashtags or whatever, 30 maybe. But on Twitter, you're pretty much stuck to one. I mean, it diminishes quickly if you use more than one. On Instagram, we've been building technologies because everyone asked us to not only be Twitter focused, where you can actually monitor and collect the comments that come in. We feel that the engagement that happens on Instagram is extremely important. And if you're able to bring that into a live database and analyze that information on the fly and understand who your top engagers are, without effort, it really helps to understand who your micro influencers are and to build campaigns and who to reach out to, who to tag, all that kind of good stuff. So
let's talk about that. Let's talk about micro influencers. Right or wrong, I'm not somebody who tracks statistics. I kind of subscribe to the philosophy of if my phone is ringing, if clients and prospects are calling me or sharing with me that they have listened or heard, I don't pay attention really to the likes, to the views, to the this. I do pay attention to the micro influencers and the ambassadors that I have who refer me business, who talk about me, whether on social and in real life, that help grow my business. And that, I think, is, to me, more important, those micro influencers, the ambassadors that I'm building. So talk a little bit about how you build those and the loyalty of those people.
One is making sure you actually recognize them and understand who they are. I would say that you do track statistics. They're just not the statistics that maybe some other people track, which are the vanity ones. You track ones that are very specific. So if your referrals are down 50% in August, you're like, what happened? Right.
Correct.
So,
I track. Yes.
Right.
Correct.
So,
yes. I do track some statistics, but not the vanity ones. Yeah.
Right. So, which is good.
I'm not saying I don't like when I get 500 likes on something, but
who doesn't? It's a great thing. It's a
right,
good feeling
right.
until the next one you only get 5, and you're like, what happened?
Right. Yeah, I do like a Facebook birthday. I'm not going to lie, but I don't get
Everyone
stuck
does.
in the. I listened to when I started my company 6.5 years ago. Gary Vee said, "Don't pay attention to the numbers." So I listened to him. It kind of worked for me. All right. Anyway, go ahead.
No, but it's, but knowing who those ambassadors are is important, right? Because then you could target them differently if you know who they are on your mailing list, all that kind of stuff. You could reach out to them to get them into your mailing list specifically to make sure you're communicating with them so they always know what you're doing. If you know they know what you want to talk about or what you're doing, then you want them to know when you have something new to talk about as well.
Yeah.
Right. So like on Instagram, the technology that we developed, kind of the more you use it, the smarter it gets. So when somebody comes in, so if John Dwoskin comes in on the 50th thing that we're tracking on Instagram, and you make a comment, then the person through our interface will see that comment and it'll see under your name that you're a heavy engager and you have 80% of your comments that you've made to me are positive, and I can click on it. I can see your history of comments. Yeah. So when I respond to you, I may take an extra minute or two to respond to you because I know it's going to hit different than just than the everyday person that I'm maybe earlier in that relationship with. So there's that. There's kind of understanding. People get caught up in likes. Likes are meaningless, right? I mean, if you're scrolling and you just hit like, doesn't mean you like the brand. It might mean you liked the shirt the guy was wearing and it had nothing to do with anything that had anything to do with anything on that post. And so it's the comments that you have to really kind of track. And those are the people that are talking, right? That are literally engaging with you are the ones that are the most important, because those are the ones that actually took the time, whether good or bad, to give their opinion.
Yeah.
Negative comments shouldn't be, it should be embraced. Sometimes you don't learn anything from the good stuff usually, right? Now, if it's just someone being a troll to be a jerk, that's not what I'm saying. But if someone has a problem with, your product or it didn't work, you should be hoping somebody says something so that you can fix it faster and hopefully save that relationship and then save the future ones as well.
Yeah. It's great stuff. All right. You ready for a quick speed round?
Sure.
All right. So, where do people get stuck the most? I'm a business coach. I work with people to get unstuck. So in this world of using Twitter, using an Instagram, where do people get stuck, and what's one thing they can do to get unstuck?
People get stuck just getting going. You just have to start. Here's the thing, like, you can delete anything later if you don't like it. If you change your voice 5 minutes, like I changed my whole visual aesthetic on Instagram. I went and I archived all the old ones. You know what I mean? It's like, if I had waited for the perfect aesthetic, then I would have been even further behind building up my base. So it's really just do it and be ready to evolve and pivot.
Yeah. I just read the book. I finished it this morning, Poke the Box by Seth Godin. And he ends with 3 words: go, go, go. Get going, take action. It was a great book. Easy to listen to. I listened to it on audible.com. What's your favorite book these days?
I just started reading As I Knew Him, my dad, Rod Serling, by his daughter, Anne Serling.
That sounds good. That sounds like a good book. I love those Twilight Zone shows. Finish this sentence. One thing everybody needs to start doing minimum 1 day a week on Twitter is
retweet me and listen to my podcast. That's where that will get you right ahead. No, one thing on minimum on Twitter is just tweet, and here's the important thing though, is it's not just about tweeting on Twitter. It's not just about posting on Instagram or anything. You need to engage. You need to, if your timeline is just you, right? Brands may have specific issues with retweeting other people just because of legalities. But like if you're on Twitter, it's just you with John, the business coach, and all that you should be retweeting stuff from Gary Vee that you like, or Seth Godin and stuff like that. People come to timelines to also find out what you're interested in or what you found that was interesting. Yeah. So you should be liking and replying and retweeting and sharing things. Giving into an ecosystem, any of the social media ecosystems, isn't about just putting your own voice out there. It's about lifting other people's up as well. Yeah. You got to give onto others as you want them to give onto you.
Yeah. Good.
Most of us aren't that interesting to not share the wealth.
No, I hear exactly what you're saying. I love what you're talking about. I'm going to throw out a challenge to myself included. I'm going to include LinkedIn and Facebook onto this as well. But, Think Community, commit to 5 minutes a day to comment, have conversations, post in comments, and engage. I think that's what I'm hearing you most of, is you got to engage on a consistent basis. I love it. All right, Jeff, tell everybody how they can get a hold of you.
You can get a hold of #Stampede at #Stampede.com. If you need some light fare in your life, you can check out my weekly podcast live from Detroit, the Jeff Dwoskin Show, at jeffisfunny.com or any of the podcast platforms. It's a pop culture interview show where I also incorporate social media tips into every episode. So if you need to be at work and pretend you're learning something, there is something you can learn in every episode.
I love it. You're filled with content. Your podcast is great. Your company, #Stampede.com, I know is helping tons of companies. A couple closing thoughts I have. Companies today have to be thinking about using resources to grow their business. You can't do a lot of what you're talking about internally. And if you can't do it internally, you still need outside voices to creatively bring in some perspective because a lot of times companies, I think, are too focused and they see only what they're kind of used to seeing. And so companies like yours for, hashtag Stampede and teaching people about social and running these campaigns and giving guidance and perspective, companies can really quantify not only the results, but the revenue growth that they can that can have an impact on their bottom line. So I think it's great. Think community, if Jeff, my bro, can help you, please reach out to him. Hashtag Stampede.com. Jeff, always fun having you.
Always a pleasure.
Feel like I've known you forever. No,
yeah, we're like the Cuomos on.
Yeah, I don't know about that. But
without the controversy.
Right, without the controversy. Yeah. All right, everybody. Thanks.
Bye.
Thanks, Jeff.